It's about the I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen wants Jackson, and he scores on the way.
Uh-oh, that looked awful.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe. Phoenix has the ball. And a pinnacle ball from
You work on that shot.
DeBrincat gets it back to Gostin, straight across now. King.
They score! Raymond! Great spot. Gostin to throw, and it's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. And away we go. You know, it's kind of weird. This is like the first time in like a very long time that I've done a show where there actually isn't a game on that's related to any of my teams. There was probably a few weeks there in the summer where the Tigers were off because they were the only team that was on. But like, I'm wearing the Pistons hat just because they play tomorrow, and that's the closest thing to one of my teams playing. But it's weird. Like I'm like, I did a double. I was like, are we sure? Like maybe the Pistons have a double-header preseason game, or maybe Michigan State's playing a preseason. No, nothing. I mean, at least not according to Bleacher Report. I didn't check Michigan State's basketball preseason schedule. I'm sure they play like, I don't know. What's a really they probably play like Cranbrook at some point. They're playing a high school. I mean, it's kind of like a college. It's a boarding school. Anyway, welcome to BS Sports. Welcome to the show. We're here. We're having a grand old time on a Tuesday evening. I did see that, Armenian man. Bill's got our Amari Cooper. Bill's making moves. There's been some NFL news, some moves, some trades. Trade deadlines in the NFL, not for like the end of the month, or maybe the beginning or middle of November or so. It's like 3 or so weeks away. But teams already making moves. Teams already selling off guys, namely the Cleveland Browns. So maybe one Myles Garrett will be for sale. We'll get to it because we got to talk so much this week. Lions knocked the doors off the poor Dallas Cowboys, and nobody felt bad. Everybody liked that. Unfortunately, Aidan Hutchinson goes down for the season. That is, at this point, confirmed. The whole rest of the NFL week was filled with storylines. We're going to get to that. MLB playoffs. Tigers get eliminated over the weekend. Got to talk that. And then what our off-season hopes are for the Tigers, what they can do to get get themselves back into the playoffs next year. Because as far as I'm concerned, now the real fun begins. Now the real expectations start for Detroit in baseball land. And we got some college football stuff to talk. So we got a lot. Michigan State is off its bye, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't know that anybody even cares. I mean, Michigan's off their bye as well. So probably more people care about that. But I don't. It's one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I guess Michigan State does play this weekend. I forgot. It's like I didn't even know they were gone last week. It was like I was so dialed in to playoff baseball and the Lions coming off of their bye. Things just happen. Also, I don't have it in my show notes, but because I'm wearing the Pistons hat, I feel I'd be remiss if I did not mention a storyline that came out today regarding new head coach of the Pistons, JB Bickerstaff's dress code policy. So apparently, and this is all alleged, I guess. Apparently, he is saying that now in practice, you are no longer allowed to wear the hoodie with the hood up. Now, I don't know. It was somewhat unclear if he was only when the hood is up, is it not allowed? Like you can still wear a hoodie, but the hood's got to be down. And so his logic was basically you play like you practice, or you practice like you play. So from just a pure physical standpoint, you're not going to have a hood up when you're taking shots in a basketball game. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. Now, I'm going to defend JB Bickerstaff even further than that. There should be no hoodies in general. You are professionals. You have jersey. Like, you have, like, training jersey. Like, official. Like, what are we doing wearing hoodies? Like, we're in high school and we're trying to be the edgiest of the kids because we're listening to Blink-182 in Linkin Park. Like, be an adult. And this, as far as I'm concerned, this goes for the coaches too. I don't want to see JB Bickerstaff showing up in a quarter zip and sweatpants to a basketball game. Bring back the suits. All right. I don't know what this is across basically all sports, and mostly I would say most notably recently basketball, but football, I guess to an extent, has also moved away from this, albeit a long time ago. Coaches and players, when they were off and immediate, they used to look so like professional and suave. Everybody wore a suit and tie. It was great. Everything looked awesome. You look at those pictures of the 80s of what's his name, Chuck Daly for the Pistons wearing a suit and tie. Tom Izzo back in the day wearing the suit and tie for Michigan State. It was great. Everybody loved it. And then in 2020, they said, you know what? We don't. This is what they said. Just show up. Just show up in your pajamas. What do I care? Show up in the Michigan State in the green and white overalls that they wear to games, basketball and football games, and not even a shirt. Just show up like that. Who cares? How could they take this away from me? This is a completely unsports related thing, and I understand that I probably lost like everybody because I'm talking Pistons basketball, and for two, I'm talking dress code. But it is ridiculous. These people, we need to bring back some class. People like the coaches used to look so cool. Now it's like they just look like JV coaches in grade school. And even then, I think when I was in grade school, I think the coaches did used to wear like at least like a collared shirt for game days. Like they were at least somewhat dressed up. I don't remember because I didn't play basketball in school, but I would imagine they probably did wear like a tie or something. I remember the football players in high school on game days. They would, I want to say they would either wear their jersey, which I think is or the jersey with like a tie under it, or they would just wear the tie, like button up in a tie. Like this used to be so cool. We used to have fun things. Now we just, whatever. Yeah, let them wear sweatpants and Crocs. I don't know. I just want things to look cool. That's basically my whole reason. Rant over. We've already been talking for like 10 minutes, and I'm yelling about dress codes. I already got to take a swig. Swig of woe tear. But, all right. Let's just jump into it then. Let's jump into the actual content of the show. So, headline of the show. Got to talk about it. Lions absolutely pantsed the Dallas Cowboys on national TV in front of their friends, family, God, and everybody. Everybody saw that the Cowboys go out there and get absolutely smoked. I mean, just from a box score perspective, you look at the stats from the Cowboys. Dak Prescott went 17 for 33, 178 yards, no touchdowns, couple of interceptions, sacked 4 times. And then after his day was done, because Lord knows he was not going to be able to stay in the whole game, Cooper Rush comes in, goes 8 for 11, 1 interception, did not get sacked. I should note, by the way, as well, Cooper Rush did throw that interception in the red zone on I think it was a 3rd or 4th and goal. And it sealed the deal that the Cowboys were not going to score a touchdown. It would have been kind of funny if Cooper Rush threw for more touchdowns than Dak Prescott that whole game, but unfortunately, he did not. But I mean, even on the run game, they were held to just 53 total yards. Rico Dowdle, I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but Rico Dowdle had 5 carries for 25 yards. He was their leading rusher. Their leading rusher had almost half of their total rushing yards. That's not good. That's not good. Average of 5 yards a carry, which actually isn't a terrible average. It's not great, but it's not like awful. Ezekiel Elliott, the old cowboy back in town, 8 carries, 17 yards. Now that's a stat you just can't make up. So basically, you're not running the football on our team. You couldn't pass the ball on our team. Their leading receiver was held to 100 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 89 yards on 7 catches. Again, no touchdowns. Longest play for him was 27 yards. And I think that was a catch and run. I don't even think it was like he just caught it 27 yards deep. So overall, the Cowboys got absolutely shellacked, at least on that end. But I would be remiss. And I know I've sort of praised, but we're gonna do bad and then end with good. All right. Aidan Hutchinson goes down. I didn't actually see the injury. I'm not going to go back and look at it. If Fox wasn't willing to show me the replay, why the heck would I go out of my way to go see Aidan Hutchinson's leg fall off? Obviously, it goes without saying that Aidan Hutchinson is one of, if not the best defensive players on the team. I think he was on pace to be the defensive player of the year. He might have been having an all-time year for a Lions defender in general. In the game, he actually did end up having a sack, and that was the play that he ended up breaking his leg there. But there's been a lot of dialogue about what the team is going to look like on Jerry's birthday, too. That's right. Happy birthday, Jerry. Aidan Hutchinson off this team, defensively, how does the team now look? Now, for one, if you just look at the individual stats, like team stats for the Lions defense, it's not particularly close as far as where the entire team ranks compared to where Aidan Hutchinson ranks. I think he's got what? Hold on, let me see if I can actually pull it up here. This year he's got 12 solo tackles, 7.5 sacks. He leads the league in sacks, by the way. He's got a forced fumble as well. He had 3 tackles on Sunday. One of them was a sack. Basically, he's basically the best player on the defense. I think I don't know what the total number. He's got 7.5 total sacks. I think the rest of the team has like 4 or something like that. Like it's pretty stark the loss of Aidan Hutchinson in terms of how much production he does for this defense. Now, there's a lot of dialogue about whether or not this is like the end of the defense or the end of the season. I was hearing a lot of people on social media, on talk radio, say that basically with Aidan Hutchinson going down, you're just not going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl. Now, I'm never going to be the kind of guy who makes that kind of prediction, because there is no way in hell you can determine whether or not a team is quote unquote good enough to win a Super Bowl in week 6. I just fundamentally disagree with that assessment, short of the team being the Carolina Panthers or the New England Patriots, right? Short of the team being 1 win or 0 wins, there's really no way you can just determine it. You could say, all right, absolutely, you are not going to win a Super Bowl at this point without, without adding to this room in replacement of Aidan Hutchinson. Now, do I think that this defense is going to be significantly worse without Aidan Hutchinson? Heck yeah, I do. I mean, like, again, 7.5 sacks, leads the league. That's your whole pass rush, basically, is gone without Aidan Hutchinson. However, to be, bright side Barry for a second, you have a very good linebacker room. Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, both very good. And Malcolm Rodriguez, to his credit, has filled in a role that he was not expected to have to fill, taking over for Derek Barnes, who's also out for the year. And he's done pretty solid. Your DBs, I think, are far and away improved from where they were last year. Amik Robertson. Hopefully Carlton Davis is good. He went out at that game as well because he got kicked in the head with his helmet off. That shouldn't be anything too serious. Probably just, at the worst, he'll miss this week against Minnesota under concussion protocol. But Carlton Davis, significant upgrade in the secondary. Terrion Arnold, I think, will continue to get better as the year goes. And your two safeties in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are complete lockdown ball hawk kind of guys. If you throw in their general vicinity, there's a very good shot that ball is going to end up in the hands of one of them. So I think the defense is still improved from where it was last year, even without Aidan Hutchinson. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the Lions should definitely be going after some big name. Unfortunately, Max Crosby, the guy that I really want, is pretty much out of the trade market, at least according to the reports, was that, Vegas is not going to take offers on him. Now, I'll take that with a grain of salt. You say you're not going to take offers until you take offers. And the closer it gets to the deadline and the worse your team ends up looking and the further back you are from competing, all of a sudden those 2 first-round picks over the next couple of years, they sound pretty good. Not that that's necessarily what it's going to take to move a Max Crosby, but, you never know. Teams make stupid decisions all the time. It's crazy when you think, oh my gosh, how could they have traded this player for this amount of it's like, because teams do that. They're usually, if you're like 1-6, you're not a particularly well-run organization. So, but the other name that's in the mix as well is, of course, Myles Garrett. And I think he is probably a much harder case to make in that he's already signed Cleveland, while also being potentially a worse dumpster fire in that they probably are going to fire their GM, if not fire their coach as well. Their quarterback is potentially one of the worst, if not the worst in the league, maybe even having a top 5 worst season of all time. We'll get to that a little bit later. And they already sold Amari Cooper, who was probably their best wide receiver at this point, and their best offensive player outside of Nick Chubb, who should be coming back at some point. And please, who knows if he's even going to stick around at this point, because you got to imagine a lot of these guys on Cleveland are sending in their trade requests to the general manager to get them literally anywhere else. Like, and it could be, I think some of these guys would rather play in the CFL than play for the Browns. I'm not going to lie. Maybe not for the kind of money, but I don't know. It might be kind of rough living in Cleveland and having to play for that team. I mean, your quarterback is one of the most vile human beings currently in the league, and he might actually be a better person than he is a quarterback. That's saying something. But anyway, on the Lions, Myles Garrett, I don't think is really on the table. I don't really think Max Crosby is on the table. I don't know who specifically is on the table for the Lions, really, if I'm just being perfectly honest. There's probably going to be somebody that they go after. I don't think it's going to be this, superstar Aaron Donald out of retirement kind of move. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get Ndamukong Suh out of his retirement home. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that they're going to have to acknowledge this, and I think they'll have a better idea of how much they need it after this weekend against Minnesota. Because if you can't rush the passer on a Sam Darnold, you're in for some trouble, especially with their wide receiver room. Now, that's all the bad stuff. I want to talk a little bit of good stuff because I hate for after a 47-9 win, we have to talk about how this defense is not going to be good and maybe we've lost our Super Bowl chance this year. I don't think that's true. This offense is legit, and it's probably the best in football, and it might not even be particularly close. David Montgomery, I don't know how this guy has gone under the radar for as long as he has. I remember him when he played for Chicago, and when the Lions picked him up in free agency, I thought this was one of the more underrated moves, and it has turned into he right now could be a top running back in the NFC at least. But I mean, like he's playing at such an unbelievable level. He's basically impossible to tackle. He gets paid over the weekend, and then let me just run for 80 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and then I'll take the time off at that point. Like I say it on the live broadcast all the time. It takes at least 2 guys to take this guy down. Like if you get him on first contact, consider yourself lucky because that's not going to happen more than once, or at least not more than once in a row. And then on the receiver end, Jamison Williams is really coming into his own. Tim Patrick had a big game, 3 catches for 68 yards. Sam Laporta finally had a game. He only caught the ball 1 time, but it was for a touchdown and 52 yards. Amon-Ra, who had not a great game, went on the stat sheet, just 4 catches for 37 yards, but he had a touchdown. Like, there's just so many guys that can be gone to. Like, you're not going to have really those games for the most part. Maybe you might have some, but the Lions scored 47 points and they didn't have a receiver with more than 100 yards. And that tells me everything I need to know about how good this offense is. They didn't have a rusher who had over 100 yards. Like Jared Goff is dialing the ball up to his guys. 3 touchdowns for him, 315 yards as well. He's mixing in the run game. In play action, Jared Goff is practically automatic and damn near the best quarterback in the league in play action. I want to say they showed some stat, or I saw some stat that in play action, he's like he has like the most touchdowns or the most yards or something in play action passes. And it's not even really close. Like, it's crazy to me that after those last couple of years in LA, that this guy was completely written off, by myself included, as just a total bum and a draft bust, because he is not only living up to that potential as a number 1 overall pick that he was, he's a top 3 NFC quarterback at least, maybe even top 2. He might be number 1 if you really want to dive deep into it, but we'll get into that later because there's another quarterback in the NFC that I might have to tip my cap to. But offensively, this team has the goods to go to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. As far as whether or not their defense can recover from an injury like Aidan Hutchinson, that will have to be shown in time. We did just see the Chiefs last year win a Super Bowl with defense, but I don't know that defense is really what wins in this NFL. I mean, the defense might win in those big games because defense travels. And obviously, I'm not underplaying defense at all. But you're going to win a lot of games this regular season with offense. And that means you can give yourself home field advantage. You can give yourself a bye week in the playoffs. And it could be 2 victories to the Super Bowl for Detroit. I mean, looking around at the NFC, the only team that you got to catch up with right now is Minnesota. And they're in your division. And they might not even be for real. We'll find out this Sunday, but either way, still a lot of season to go for Detroit. It's not ideal, but hey, you know what? Any way of beating the Cowboys is a victory as far as I'm concerned, and especially beating them in the worst home loss in the history of the franchise since like 1950 something, since before any of us were even alive. Yeah, that does bring joy to this Lions fan's heart. And hey, you know what? Taylor Decker reported, so as far as I'm concerned, we've beaten the Cowboys 2 years in a row. And all those Cowboys fans who wanted to talk trash after that faux win, and well, since that faux win, by the way, I want to say they have not. Hold on, I'm gonna double check this. I want to double check this because I want to just make sure that I'm correct here. All right, so 2023. Let's see. Does it include postseason? It does not include Oh, yes, it does include postseason. So since that win on December the 30th, the Cowboys have not won in Jerry's World. So since that win, since the refs stole the game from Detroit, as they always seem to do, the Dallas Cowboys have not won a single game at home. You just hate to see it. You just hate to see it. And not only have they not won, they've gotten murdered. Okay, they got murdered by the Packers in the wild card round. Then fast forward to this year, they get murdered by the Saints in week 2, and then they practically get murdered by the Ravens. That the final score does not reflect how the Ravens just knocked the doors off them and never looked back. And then last Sunday, they get murdered by the Detroit Lions. So hey, they get their little bye week, so maybe, after a couple of road games against Atlanta and San Fran, maybe their first game against the Eagles, they'll figure it out. But honestly, at this rate, maybe they won't win another home game ever. Who knows? A man can dream, can he? It's actually crazy. I didn't know that stat, but then I was thinking, like, wait a minute. They actually haven't won a home game since beating the Lions last year. I think it was Monday Night Football, but I think it was a Saturday, which is weird. It was a Saturday broadcast, but it was on ESPN. I remember that. That's crazy. That's actually kind of crazy. Like, I don't believe in karma. I'm just not. I don't believe in that sort of thing. But I will say God has a sense of humor about this sort of thing. If that's you just hate to see it. You just hate to see it. And believe it or not, actually, the bye week is actually favored against Dallas this week. So, if you're a betting man, maybe you should take the bye week. I would take the bye week, is all I'm saying. But all right. So before we get into some of the trades and the implications, I want to just talk week to week about these games here. So, all right. Thursday Night Football was actually a pretty good game again. Geno Smith and the Seahawks lose once again. I want to say this is loss number 2 in a row, right? Or 3. Yeah, because they lost to the Giants, right? I think this is loss number 3 in a row because they lost to the Lions. And then, they've lost 3 straight since losing to the Lions on the road. 2 of those were at home, by the way. One of them to the New York Giants, of all teams. And things are just starting to really fall apart for Seattle. I think it's time for them to move along from Geno Smith. Not that they got to cut this guy or anything. You're not going to cut him. But I think it's basically kind of over. I don't like the teams figured him out trope because I just think that's stupid. But I do think it's just sort of done. And look, you can say, well, he threw for 312 yards. Yeah, he threw the ball 52 times. This is not some lights out performance from Geno Smith. He also threw 2 interceptions. He got sacked once. He had a 65 quarterback rating, a 53 QBR on ESPN. He didn't have a good game. And his team was down the whole time. He was playing comeback the whole time. Could not get it done. Had back-breaking interceptions late in those games where he had a chance to get his team back into it and just couldn't do it. San Fran has gotten themselves back to 500 with that win, which is needed, especially against a divisional opponent. I don't particularly think San Fran is really all that good, especially without Christian McCaffrey in that offense. And I think Trent Williams is also out for some amount of time. I don't know if he's back, but I don't think this is a great loss for Seattle's sake, especially given they start 3-0. They look like they could be contending for that division because LA is falling apart with the injuries. Arizona is inconsistent. San Fran was getting hurt, and then it all just sort of falls apart for the Seahawks. And in part, it's because of the performances of Geno Smith. Obviously, against Detroit, he went out and played very well. He had a lot of big stats, but he also threw a game-losing interception. So I just think his time is done. I think they probably would be better off trying to figure out who they're going to do next at quarterback. I don't know if they drafted anybody or what the plan exactly is, but I just don't think it's going to work with Geno Smith long term. It was fun while it lasted, but hey, I guess somebody did write back and said Geno is not actually that good. Speaking of being not actually that good, Drake May, he had his debut, and we got to talk about it because he was top 3? Was he number 3 overall pick? I guess you could say all right. He played all right. 20 for 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, couple of interceptions. Though I believe they were late. Let me double check that though. I want to say they were like late game interceptions. Let me see. End of quarter 2. Touchdown. Yeah, he had an interception in the fourth quarter at some point. Yeah, he had an interception in the fourth quarter, and I guess he must have had an interception early in the game. Where's the other interception? Yeah, he had an interception at the beginning of the game, and then an interception near the end of the game. That's not too bad, especially when you put 2 touchdowns in, one in the third quarter and then the other in the fourth quarter. I mean, again, the New England Patriots team is not very good. They're not going to win a whole lot of games, but maybe you found something in Drake May. It's only 1 week, so there's no like victory lap that should be had here. I wasn't particularly high on him outside of or considering the other quarterback prospects of this class, but then again, I also was more high on Bo Nix, and that is not looking too great. But considering he managed to throw 3 interceptions to a bunch of nobodies and Hunter Henry, that's the only name that I even know. I don't know who any of these other guys are. Jalen Polk, he threw. He got a 4-yard catch. I know him. Then he played for Washington. Big Ten guy. I don't know. Drake May. He also carried the ball. He had 5 carries for 38 yards. Maybe. I'm just let Patriots fans have a little bit of hope. They don't get that very often, right? They haven't been good at all historically. No, anything. But speaking of being good and historic, I got to talk about Jayden Daniels because I have a question, and it could be a little premature, but I'm gonna go out and just put this out here. Now, the Ravens did end up beating Washington, so the win was out of this quarterback's reach. Jayden Daniels is the guy I'm referring to, in case you were living under a rock. But Jayden Daniels might be the best quarterback in the NFC. And that's crazy to me, given the fact that they trade. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Didn't they trade Terry McLaurin? Or not Terry McLaurin, because he's still on the team, isn't he? Yeah, they're not Terry McLaurin. Who's the other guy? Who was the guy they traded? Oh my gosh, I don't remember his name. But they traded one of their receivers before the season started to the Eagles, right? And I thought, okay, well, they're not exactly helping Jayden Daniels out, but it turns out maybe they kind of did, and it wasn't intentional necessarily, but it worked. Like, I remember in the offseason, people were saying, man, this roster in 2019 would have been so fire. Hey, in 2024, this roster looks pretty good. 4-2, 2-2 on the road. Jayden Daniels threw for 269 yards, a couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. He really has not had a bad game. Like, even in the losses early on in the year, he was not having bad games. I think at this point, he's running away with the Rookie of the Year win, right? I mean, that goes without saying. But furthermore, I mean, I love Jared Goff, obviously, Lions fan. I love Jared Goff. But this Jayden Daniels guy, he's probably the one quarterback that I really fear in the NFC. Like the others are, I don't know. Maybe you might say Jalen Hurts, maybe, but he hasn't really looked like 2022 Jalen Hurts in a very long time, which is to say 2 years. He hasn't looked like himself. He hasn't looked like that guy in a couple of years. Jordan Love, maybe a Caleb Williams, but that we're talking about guys that don't have a whole lot of resume. It's funny. I remember a couple of years ago, and I guess this is how time works. The AFC was the conference of the young, up and coming quarterbacks and the future of the NFL. Now it kind of feels like it might be a little bit of the NFC with Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams, and I'm blanking on the other one. There's another one. Am I blanking on the other one? No, I'm not blanking on the other one. I guess Spencer Rattler, maybe? Yeah, he had an okay game. I doubt it. But hey, maybe. I don't know. But either way, Jayden Daniels, he looks like that guy. Ironically enough, he looks like the guy that should have gone 1-1. And we'll get to Caleb Williams in just a second here because he did have a good game. And he's finally starting to really look like he's getting into form. But it just feels like there's Jaden Daniels, who the whole time was playing at this level, and Caleb Williams, who has kind of started to reach into form, and maybe it just took a little bit longer, get rid of the lofty expectations and get kind of used to the NFL speed. And some guys just learn at a different rate. Jaden Daniels is an older quarterback anyway. He was ready and raring to go into the NFL. So, yeah. And speaking of that young quarterback, I guess I do got to talk a little Caleb Williams. Just because, again, it's a story I wanted to follow along. He finally has a really, really good game. And a game where he is up to that potential. First of all, he ran the ball 4 times, 56 yards. That's really good. But the big part about him is his throwing ability, 23 for 29, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, just the 1 interception. Easily his best game. He does it in London, on the road, neutral site, to be fair. So not necessarily in any enemy territory. But still a dominant win over the Jags, a franchise that is, wow. I mean, how you go from back-to-back number 1 overall picks to still being terrible is pretty impressive. I will say, pretty gosh darn impressive. Maybe Trayvon Walker will be on the trade block for the Lions. I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it, but who knows? It's the Jags. They have not been smart for pretty much their entire existence. I guess they made AFC Championship games. That's about all I could say about them. But on Caleb Williams, this was the game that he really looked the part, where he was running around, making plays on his feet, and being able to make those crazy throws in the air that he was able to do in college. Now, will this be sustainable? Your guess is as good as mine, but his back-to-back wins have been against the Carolina Panthers and against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 teams that are not particularly good, both defensively and all around. So, are they real challenges for Caleb? Not particularly, but it's an NFL team. I don't care who you play. If you throw 4 touchdowns, you got my attention. These are professionals on both sides of the ball. As far as whether or not they're, good overall teams, there are some good players on every single team, except for the Panthers. They have no good players, believe it or not. It's really weird that they're like the only team where there's just 0 good players. Anyway, Caleb Williams, really solid game. Not looking forward to having to play him this year. Although, hey, maybe he'll come back to earth next week. And ball, or actually, no, not next week. He's off the bye week. So the Caleb Williams truthers this is like their heaven, right? Because he's back-to-back games of good football, and he gets a bye week, so he doesn't have to worry about any of the potential negative. You can just live in this, and Caleb Williams is Tom Brady 2.0, except they don't have very similar games at all. Scratch that. He is, I guess, he's more akin to a Patrick Mahomes. Just with the juking guys and making crazy plays and throwing against his body. That's Mahomes-ian. But hey, fun stuff for the Bears, not fun stuff for me as a Lions fan, because I don't want that to happen. I want him to throw 4 interceptions every game. That would be more fun. And also, I would be remiss without mentioning Deshaun Watson. I am once again requesting that this guy just get cut and sent away. I don't care how much you're paying him. I don't care if cutting him would be even worse. He is far and away the worst quarterback in the NFL. He is 1 of 1 at being terrible. You know what's crazy? We are 6 weeks in. Now, in the NFL, I wouldn't say it's easy to score points. It's really not. But most of the time, most teams, at some point, they stumble on, let's just say, 20 points. 6 weeks in, if you're the Carolina Panthers, you manage to find ways to score. Quarterback goes off, has a great day. The Patriots, they find ways to score, to get points here. Pretty much every team can do that, except for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, believe it or not, and you will believe it because it is a fact, have scored 17, 18, 16, or 15, 16, 13, and 16 points. They have not scored 20 points in the entire year. The most points the Cleveland Browns have scored all year is 18 points. You know the last team to do that through 6 weeks? The Cleveland Browns in 2017, when they didn't win a single game. So basically, the Browns are very lucky that they managed to get that win against Jacksonville in week 2 because they would have been on pace to match their previously inept season, where I guess to be fair to them at that point, they actually didn't have a franchise quarterback. They were developing a quarterback at that point. It didn't work out, obviously, but now instead of that, you have the 300 or whatever, how much money you owe Deshaun Watson, $1 million man, out there throwing the ball to the wrong team most of the time. And when he is throwing it to his own team, it's for nothing, or he's sailing it wide, or you're just totally inept on offense. You cannot score. And yet, Kevin Stefanski, when asked, are you going to bench Deshaun Watson, insists upon keeping him in. Why? Is it because ownership wants you to put him in? Can you just say that? Can you just say, you know what? It's out of my control. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Like, because to me, it's disrespectful to oneself to not go out there and try to put out the best product you can. And if you're telling me that you honestly, as a coach, believe that Deshaun Watson would perform at least at the same level as Jameis Winston, who is the backup in Cleveland, or frankly, any backup you can find off the street, that he would play at the same level as that backup, you are on crack. You are just simply out of your mind. Like, he is so beyond savable and salvageable. He does not want to be there. Clearly, his players do not like playing with him. Amari Cooper, his best wide receiver, he got out of Dodge. So if you thought it was bad now his wide receiver 1 is Jerry Jeudy, who this week against the Eagles had a total of 1 catch for 35 yards. Jerry, did you even play? Is my question. David Njoku, who was a phenomenal tight end for them last year when Joe Flacco, the dead body of Joe Flacco, went out there and was dotting up guys. David Njoku has been a complete non-factor on this team. Like, it is absolutely pitiful from an offensive standpoint, from a team building standpoint, when you can go from a playoff team with Joe Flacco at 100 years old to Deshaun Watson to being a team that cannot score 20 points. 20 points is 3 touchdowns, at least. Assuming you kick the extra points, which, I mean, you got to make at least 2. All right, you gotta make 2 out of the 3 extra points. You don't even have to make all of them to get 20 points. And you know what's even crazier? Is I don't know when they're gonna score 20 points next. They got the Bengals next week, which, to be fair, is not a very good defensive team. So I'd hope that they could get 20 points. But they lost to the Giants, and the Giants couldn't score 20 points on them. Now, I know it's the NFL, and you can't really do the transitive property stuff, but they have upcoming. They got the Bengals, as I said. They got the Ravens. They got the Chargers. They got the Saints, the Steelers, the Broncos. And that's all, or I guess I'll end at the Steelers because that goes to the end of November. I can assure you, against the Steeler defense, you're not scoring 20 points. Against the Raven defense, you're not scoring 20 points. So you got 3 shots over the next month or so to score 20 points. And one of those is against the Bengals, a division opponent, and those are always tough games anyway. Although, to be fair, Cleveland has done a very good job at stopping Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow, despite having a really good year, the Bengals are not. The Chargers, who are an on-again, off-again team, but a team that, nonetheless can be fairly competent. And the Saints, who knows what they're going to look like by the time you play them. My point being, it does not look like it's going to get much better. And you know what's even worse? They didn't even win a preseason. I mean, the Browns just can't find wins. Unless they're playing the Jags. Then they can, I guess. But, yeah. Deshaun Watson, please, just stop playing football for money. I know if it was up to me, like if I was playing football for money and I was playing his back, I would be, please, I'd be out there every day. What do you mean? No, I'm good. I'll practice at the jugs machine. Isn't that for receivers? No, it's for people, that play football. Anyway. We got to continue to move on because I feel like I've been just burying Deshaun Watson for far too long. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, speaking of, played terrible against the Giants on Sunday night, but they do still win. And I got a question for one Zach Taylor. And for those of you who have seen, oh my gosh, what is the name of the movie? I can't think of the name. Hold on. Now I'm looking it up. Mike Judge movies. Office Space. For those of you who have seen Office Space, I just have a simple question for you, Zach Taylor. What is it exactly that you do here? Because since that Super Bowl run, this team has gotten off to slow starts every single year, basically. And they defensively are completely inept, despite the fact that they gave up just 7 points to the Giants. Ooh, wow. I mean, you held Daniel Jones to 205 yards. I mean, please, do you want me to coronate you as the best defensive team ever or the most improved? No. Offensively, Joe Burrow did not have a very good game. And it seems like these kind of games are, I wouldn't say common, but they happen at somewhat sporadic points. I don't, what does Zach Taylor bring for this team? Like, truly, what does he do? Because I have no clue. Is he here for the defense? Clearly not. If he was here for the defense, then he shouldn't be. Is he here for the offense? I mean, I guess they score points sometimes, but they don't win a whole lot of games. So in these close game situations, he's not there to be the difference. To me, it's just like they're not winning with you. So even if they get rid of you, they won't win without you. Like if it's a talent thing, whatever. Like clearly there needs to be a change in the attitude in Cincinnati. There needs to be a change in the culture. They need somebody to take over. I don't know what they're doing in Cincinnati, and it bothers me because I love the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I love that team. I was rooting for them in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and I'm just very mad that every single AFC team that theoretically could take over the Chiefs just decides they don't want to play football anymore. I get very upset. Armenian Man asks, would you take Trey from their O line or from their D line? You should say, or I should say. I believe you mean Trey Hendrickson, and short answer is yes. Trey Hendrickson is a very solid player against the Giants. He had a couple of sacks. I want to say, let me double check this. That's right. So he actually does have a bit of a resume with Aaron Glenn and I believe with Dan Campbell, both of them coming from the Saints, and Trey Hendrickson, of course, from play for the Saints from 2017 to 2020, which would have been at the time when Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn were both coaches for the Saints at that point. So there is a relationship, and I'm sure if Brad Holmes came to Dan Campbell and asked him about him, I think there'd be a positive view of him. I mean, right now he's got 5 sacks on the year, 13 solo tackles, no forced fumbles, but no picks either. But he's a good player, and depending upon what Cincinnati thinks, if they are in sell mode, which I think they very well could be, I think he could be a guy that you don't have to give up too much to get. We'll see, but he's definitely a guy on my radar. Now, speaking of on my radar, the Jets. You just hate to see it. Jets lose in a heartbreaking fashion. Aaron Rodgers, another game-losing interception. It seems like this is very common for him. What happens here with the Jets is a little unexpected. So at the time, when they lost that game, I was like, all right, I feel like they're just kind of done. They fire their coach. Are we going to start seeing trade requests? And instead of that, I get news this morning. I think it was this morning. Yeah, news this morning. As I'm getting into work, Davante Adams is traded to the New York Jets for a pittance. He gets the Raiders get a conditional 3rd-round pick, but and this is major, the Jets take on that contract. So the Raiders basically just completely clear off Davante Adams, and they get a draft pick in return. I actually don't think it's a bad trade for the Raiders because, again, they're a team that needs assets, and you weren't going to win with Davante Adams on the roster. Not because Davante Adams is bad. Davante Adams is very good, but you weren't going to win with Davante Adams on the roster. So I think it's a very good move. McNeil just got extended? Did that just really happen? I haven't gotten any notification. Okay, well, I'll wait if I get that notification to confirm this. Let me actually just look this up. Let me just look up Aidan McNeil. Sure, it'll be like the first thing. Yep, Aidan McNeil. So I guess breaking news. Hold on, wait. I can use the breaking news sound. Where is it? Where's breaking news? There it is. Breaking news. Aidan McNeil extended 4 years. 4 more years for Aidan McNeil. Did not mean to click that. Adam Schefter reporting new deal in Detroit. Lions are signing defensive tackle Aidan McNeil to a 4-year contract extension. I guess immediate reaction to this. Excellent move. Aidan McNeil just coming off a 2-sack day against Dallas. I think he is one of the better young nose tackle, middle of the D-line guys. He's a big part of the reason why our run defense has been so good since he's come up. And he's another guy, by the way. Let me just find when he was drafted specifically. He was drafted in the 3rd round, 72nd overall. I remember there was a little bit of a narrative of, Brad Holmes can't draft in the 3rd round. Really? He found Aidan McNeil in the 3rd round. Doesn't seem like a big problem to me. And there's the Bleacher Report notification. Aidan McNeil signs 4-year deal. Hey, you know what? I'm cool with it. This is the Brad Holmes way: is draft, develop, pay, basically. And it tells me that this Lions defensive line, this Lions defense that's been able to stop the run, is not going anywhere anytime soon. So great stuff there. Great stuff. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Devontae Adams just got traded. Now, as far as how the Jets look at the offset, well, for one, the New York Packers, as I will now call them, yeah, I mean, obviously they get better. And oddly enough, what a coincidence, Devontae Adams' hamstring is suddenly feeling really, really good now. Now he's gonna play. He's probably gonna play on Sunday, which is really just quite the coincidence. I gotta say. I mean, like, I mean, of course, he was getting better every week. He was really getting better, and then all of a sudden he gets to New York, and oh my gosh, it's like my hamstring is. I didn't even lose my hamstring. It's like better than it was before. I don't know how that happened. I'm not accusing Devontae Adams of anything, guys. I'm not doing that. Stop it. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? But this is so after this Devontae Adams trade, a thing was said by Woody Johnson. Now, for those of you who are uninitiated, as I was a little uninitiated, Woody Johnson is one of I believe it's a multiple person ownership group for the Jets, but he is just for the sake of this, he's the owner of the New York Jets. Woody Johnson has a quote after this trade and just in general about the state of the Jets. Here is the quote, and I quote: thinking is overrated. You have to look forward. You have to look forward to the games we're going to play each and every week and try to win all of them. You just have to go with your instinct and what's the best thing to build a team. Did you catch that first part? Could you say that again, Woody? But could you say that like the first, like the part of the beginning? Oh, you mean you have to look forward? No. The thing before that. Oh, you mean we have to look forward to the games we're going to play each and no. Before that, that was that. Thinking is overrated. These people make more money than I will ever see, than any of us will ever see, most likely. I don't know what you people do for work. We could probably combine incomes of every single person who has at one point viewed an episode or a clip of the show of me on this channel. We could probably combine all of our incomes, and we might get to a third if we're lucky. If we combine not only income and assets, we might get to like maybe a eighth or a tenth of what Woody Johnson. How can you say this after, for one, a loss, and two, you are currently dealing with Hassan Riddick, who you brought in and didn't think, oh, wait a minute, we got to pay him. He talked about wanting Hassan Riddick was brought in to help this defense, an already very good defensive unit. And He has literally not played a single snap. I don't even think he's practiced. So, yeah, thinking is overrated, I guess, for stupid people. I would agree with that. Most stupid people do not do a whole lot of thinking, and I can't imagine Woody Johnson does a whole lot of thinking about how to make his football team any better. Outside of the fact that he just traded for Devontae Adams, but hey, I don't think that's going to change much of anything for the Jets' trajectory. It might make their games a little bit more fun, but you don't have a head coach. Your quarterback is old and dead and inconsistent, and he's basically running the team. So, hey, if you want a quarterback to run your team, have at it and have fun with the results, because I don't think you're going to like it. As it turns out, players on the field actually do not know a whole lot about roster construction and asset usage, or coaches, because Aaron Rodgers is the same dummy who brought in Nathaniel Hackett to help your offense, and then succinctly cut him from play calling. Now he's, I don't know, I think he's on like clipboard duty, which he's really good at, by the way. He's a very good clipboard guy. But speaking of Monday Night Football and trades, the Bills also earlier today trade for Amari Cooper. The full trade details in this case: Buffalo gets Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick in 2025. Cleveland gets a 3rd-round pick in 2025, as well as a 7th-round pick in 2026. Yeah, I mean, Cleveland needs assets. They need draft picks. They need to sell off for sure. So I think it's the right move for them to make. It's going to make them worse offensively, obviously. Amari Cooper is a very good wide receiver. And the Bills needed a wide receiver 1, truly. Like, they needed an actual wide receiver 1, because Keon Coleman is a rookie, and he's not going to be able to take that role immediately. I think Amari Cooper is going to very much so help that offense be a little bit more consistent. And I think Josh Allen is going to absolutely love an Amari Cooper. Now, granted, he is getting up there in age, so I don't think he's, a stud. He's not like a superstar necessarily, but he is going to help that offense. And it is kind of funny that these two trades happen like back to, it's like the Jets are like, all right, we're not going to lose to Buffalo next time. We are going to have Devontae Adams. And the Bills are like, hey, look, we got a Devontae Adams too, even though he's not. Amari Cooper's not as good as Devontae Adams. Say that, but still, very good pickup for the Bills. Definitely going to make them better for sure. $97 million. Is that really how much it is? $97 million? That's a lot of money. I don't care. I mean, Ali McNeil is having like a Pro Bowl caliber year. So whenever people get concerned about money and overspending, I'm just like, I don't care. It's not my money. You can pay him in nickels and dimes. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. So yeah, none of that concerns me. Tyrese post. Oh, okay, never mind. Thought that was more information on that, but that's pretty much it for the NFL stuff. So let's move along to college football. So this week in college football was a little interesting. It wasn't crazy, but it did have some interesting games. So Penn State comeback win over USC. Look, continue to say maybe USC just can't handle the Big Ten. They just can't handle these long, grindy games where it's not winning games 40 to nothing or 45 to 35, even though this was a very high scoring game. Look, USC had total control of this game. They were up, as much as they were up. Let's see, what was the highest lead they had? They were up 30 to 23 pretty late in the game. And then everything just fell apart. Like, they were up 17 to 3 at one point, 20 to 13. Like, I don't know what USC's identity is once Caleb Williams. I don't know what Lincoln Riley is gonna be doing. If he's gonna be coaching them for much longer. He has yet to really fix their defense, clearly. And Miller Moss, he's not Caleb Williams. We'll just say that. Now, on the other end of it, I'm still not sold on Penn State. I know, all right? Maybe I'm just a Penn State hater, and that may or may not be true. I will not deny that in a court of law. But I mean, outside of Illinois, which was a solid win, and I just don't. What of these wins am I supposed to be super impressed with? Kent State, the Golden Flashes. I guess West Virginia was kind of a tough win. I think some people had that as an upset alert, but they got to go at Wisconsin this weekend, or next weekend, not this weekend. They're on a bye this week. Then they got Ohio State at home, which is probably going to be their toughest game. If they can beat Ohio State at home, then we'll have a conversation. But until then, I will continue to cite James Franklin as their head coach and why I will not believe. I will just not believe. I refuse on principle. So, but still, a good win for Penn State. Big Ten win. I know it's weird because USC and they shouldn't be in the Big Ten, but they are. So the Big Ten win. OJ Simpson, Big Ten legend. Speaking of legends in not the Big Ten, but Tennessee beating Florida in overtime. Let me tell you, this game is crazy. I had this game on in the background because I had the multi-view on. And I was like, because I was mostly focusing on Ohio State and Oregon, which we will get to in just a little bit here. But Florida really was keeping it close. And to be fair, neither team was really doing much of anything offensively. At the half, Florida was up 3-0. So it was a low-scoring half. Tennessee comes alive. You know, it's a 10-10 tie after 3 quarters. And then final, I just want to make sure I get this right. I think it was like the final few seconds. So it was like inside 30 seconds. They score the touchdown. DJ Lagway to Chimere Dyke. Chimere? I don't know if it's a hard or a soft CH. And at that I was like, oh no, are they gonna blow it? Because it's gonna go overtime. But overtime comes, Florida ends up missing a field goal, and then Tennessee just walks it off with a touchdown. Disappointing end for upset purposes, but Tennessee keeps themselves afloat. They keep their season afloat. But further, they keep their reputation afloat. And that might be even more important because you could not lose to Florida at home. You just couldn't do it. If you did that, all bets are off as far as any sort of postseason, right? And Tennessee consistently has been ranked inside the top 10. You're glad that you won this game. We'll say that. Because if you didn't, it wouldn't have been good. It wouldn't have been good. And Nico Uliumbajubadabado, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He had not a great game. 16 for 26, 169 yards. He has really fallen off. And unfortunately for Tennessee, their season is going to go where he goes, and he's not going to places that you want to go. I'll just say that he's not going in the direction that the ball is supposed to go. He's going in the backwards direction. So good win, I guess, for Tennessee. Just to stay alive, but ugly game. Now, a game that was not ugly, however, is Ohio State and Oregon. This game lived up to the hype. This was an incredibly fun game to watch. Both quarterbacks, I thought, played at a very high level. Obviously, there was some drama at the end regarding 12 men on the field and offensive pass interference and running clock. I'm not even going to comment on that because that's too much in the weeds for me as just a more casual viewer of this game. Ohio State and Oregon, both of these teams, I think we could see in the Big Ten championship game. I really do think so. This was just such an exciting game. Both quarterbacks threw for over 300 yards. Will Howard of Ohio State, 326 yards, a couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. Dylan Gabriel, he finally had that game where he looked like Dylan Gabriel was supposed to look basically all year, and he did it against a really good opponent in Ohio State. 341 yards for him and a couple of touchdowns. Plus, he ran for 32 yards. And Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, great game for him. 9 catches, 100 yards, touchdown. Emeke Egbuka, I'm terrible with these sorts of names. I apologize. 10 catches for 93 yards. Evan Stewart, the random, it's just like, who is this man? Who is this man, Evan Stewart? He's got the most ordinary name. Like it's like you just went to the random name generator and he goes out 7 catches, 149 yards and a touchdown. Tez Johnson, he's another one, 7 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. Jordan James, I know him very well. When he played Michigan State, he was basically their whole offense. Jordan James, 23 carries for 115 yards. It was just an absolute showcase of offense, and it showed just how dominant the Big Ten has been as a conference, and in terms of matchups. This was just such a great game all around, and I long for the days when Michigan State can go back to these kind of games being played with them involved against some of these bigger name teams. But finally, it feels like we haven't had an actual really good Saturday night NBC primetime Big Ten game, and this one delivered, absolutely. So if you're pro all the conference realignment stuff, this is the game you're going to go to, because this is a matchup that would not have happened in the regular season if not for the conference realignment, and we get to see it in the middle of the season. And like I said, I think these are 2 teams that are going to be competing for the Big Ten, and I would not be shocked if Big Ten championship come late December is not Ohio State, Oregon, Lucas Oil Stadium. That's going to be interesting, though, because now Oregon's no longer going to have that home field advantage. If anything, if there's going to be any home field advantage, it's going to be for Ohio State, because Lucas Oil Stadium's a whole lot closer to Columbus than it is to Eugene. So overall, either way, great game. I could go on and on about how much fun this game was. Hopefully there's a matchup like this week. But we will talk, because there could be one. Red River Shootout as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. And I guess you could call it a shootout, but technically it was really a shoot. Or really a one-way, is more like a firing squad, really. Because Texas murdered Oklahoma 34-3. Complete massacre. Quinn Ewers, not an amazing game. 199 yards, a touchdown and an interception, 20 for 29. I mean, fairly accurate, but not, blowing you away with the yardage. But Quintravian Wisner comes in, runs for 118 yards, and Oklahoma never really stood a chance. They were, oddly enough, up after the first quarter, 3-0. So I think there was a point where Oklahoma's like, all right, we're winning. Hold on. Let's see if we can. And they're dead. 21-3 at the half, and then 24-3 after the third. They didn't score a single point the entire rest of the game. So my question is, Texas is just clearly the best team in the country at this point. Oklahoma was no slouch. Oklahoma's number 18 in team in the country, and they held them 3 points. It wasn't even close. That these two teams, these two new SEC teams. This is now the Red River Shootout is now an SEC matchup. It's no longer Big 12. No more. As our friend likes to say. No more SEC, or no more Big 12. This is now an SEC matchup between these two teams. But yeah, or Oregon. I'm still on Oregon. Texas, though, 6-0. They get their second conference win of the season. And they got Georgia this week. And that was the game I was alluding to earlier. I think that could be a very fun game. Hopefully it's not just a blowout like this one was. I hope it's similar to that Oregon-Ohio State game in terms of the closeness of it. But overall, just a showcase of how good Texas is. And they really are just sort of the most complete team. And at this stage, they really do look like the soon-to-be national champions. Now, look, playoffs, we'll see what happens. It's crazy. It's going to be a different format than college football has ever seen, and that any of these teams and any of these coaches have ever seen. We'll see how they adjust to that. So before we move on to previewing this next week in college football, we should take a look at the AP poll going into this week. So Oregon moves up a spot. They're now the number 2 team in the country. Penn State jumps up a spot. They're now number 3. Ohio State drops a couple down to number 4. LSU, I didn't even mention them, but they jump up 5 spots They're now number 8. Iowa State, they also had a win, I believe. Oh my gosh, who did they play? I was watching that game. I can't remember who they played, but they got a win, so they went up a couple of spots to number 9. Tennessee, despite the win, they dropped 3 spots down to number 11. So they're lucky they won that game. They would have dropped a whole heck of a lot more. Notre Dame drops a spot down to 12. BYU up to 13. Texas A&M, hey, remember when they lost Notre Dame? And now those two teams, they're very neck and neck in terms of the rankings. They're 14. Boise State up to 15. Indiana goes up to 16, up a couple of spots. Kansas State, big win over Deion Sanders' Colorado. You just hate to see it. They're at 17. Ole Miss, they dropped 9 spots. Jeez, what happened to Ole Miss this week? What happened? What did they? I guess they lost. They lost to LSU. Oh yeah, that's right. They had that game. I forgot about that. Yeah, they lost to LSU. So they dropped 9 spots down to 18. Missouri goes up a couple of spots to 19. Pitt goes up to 20 a couple of spots. SMU climbing up to 21. Illinois up a spot to 22. Army, get this. We got a couple of service academies in the top 25. Army is 23. Navy's 25. The Army-Navy game this year might actually be kind of entertaining. At least as it stands right now. Both those teams in the top 25. And Michigan down to 24. At this point, just fighting to stay in the top 25. And they're going to have a tough matchup. It actually should be a pretty good game, Illinois, Michigan. That should be a tough, I would say, a challenge for both of those teams. It's going to be at Illinois, though. I mean, who knows how rocking that stadium? I don't even know if they technically have a stadium. They might technically, but who knows? Well, that actually could be a game to watch for this upcoming week. But yeah, those are the AP poll rankings. And now let's take a look here at week 8 because there should be a couple of good games here. So there's games technically today if you're into Troy, South Alabama, ESPN 2. Yeah, we're not going to talk about any of those. Friday night, though, you got Oregon at Purdue on Friday night. That's the Friday Night Fox game. I don't know what it is about putting Oregon in blowout matchups on Friday night. I don't know why Fox just loves that, but apparently they do. Yeah, so that's something to watch for if you want to see a team get murdered on TV. As far as some good matchups here, just scrolling through. You got Alabama at Tennessee at 3:30. Tennessee, this is a must-win for them, I think, to stay sort of in relevancy for Alabama. This feels like a get-right game after the Vandy loss. It's going to be on the road, so it's not going to be an easy game. But if Nico Iliumbalubadubada continues to play the way that he has, it could get ugly very quickly. But that's on ABC at 3:30. And then, as mentioned earlier, Michigan at Illinois on CBS at 3:30. That could be a very good game. Big Ten matchup. Michigan just staying in the top 25, but a loss here would almost certainly kick them out, especially depending on the way it looks. This is going to be another tough road game for Michigan. Their second road game in a row, but this one off of the bye after the road loss to Washington. I don't think this bodes well for U of M, but they've bounced back before, so we'll see if they can do it right here against Illinois. And then if we keep scrolling, there's a game that here it is. 7:30, Texas hosting Georgia. 7:30 on ABC. Gonna be the game of the week. However, unfortunately, I will probably not really be watching that game because some moron continues to put Michigan State at night, specifically at 7:30 at night. Now, I will be tailgating, so there's not going to be a stream of this game. But why do we keep putting Michigan State at night games? And you know what's even worse? Michigan State is also a night game. Why do we keep doing this? Why can't I just have a noon game or a 3:30 game? The last noon game Michigan State had was last year. We have not had a noon game all year. We are not good enough to not have noon games. What is happening? But they are hosting Iowa, coming off of the bye. Both teams unranked, obviously. I think this could be a sneak game for Michigan State to win. I'm assuming they're going in as underdogs. It's going to be on NBC, so it's going to be the national broadcast for Saturday night. Your Big Ten Saturday night. Here comes Saturday night. Yeah, so that should be very unfun. But at least on the Georgia Texas, I'm a Spartan fan. So I'm going to be watching Michigan State. But if you are a true red-blooded American, please watch the Georgia Texas game. That is going to almost certainly deliver in all-time classicness. So yeah, that game should be an absolute barn burner, and it will certainly solidify the man-boy separator in the SEC between Georgia and Texas. See which of these two teams really is far and away the best. I'm sure Georgia is, licking their lips, knowing that they are going to be going into this game as underdogs. But this should be a really good matchup. So yeah, there you go. That's college football. It should be a pretty okay week. Not a whole lot in the noon slot, but pretty good games in the 3:30s. I haven't mentioned it, and we're just about to start baseball talk here. But the Yankees are up 2-0 over the Guardians. They've already got a 1-0 series lead. We'll get to that in just a second, but it's not looking good for the Gripe. It's not looking good. Obviously, it's very, very early. I mean, teams have blown 2-0 leads before, but it just doesn't. It feels a little bit like New York is just really outclassing them. But yeah. So with that note, we're gonna move on to some baseball. So sad news over the weekend: the Detroit Tigers fall to the Cleveland Gar Indians, and they unfortunately, I think they went out with a bit of a whimper. Tarek Skubal pitched one of the worst games he's pitched all year. Gave up the grand slam in, I don't remember what inning it was. It was maybe the 5th or 6th, something like that. Basically, at that point, the game was over. Lane Thomas, I hate you, and I will never forgive you unless you come and play for the Tigers. Then I'll forgive you. Unless you're bad for the Tigers, then I'll hate you even more. But the season ends ultimately, and I know there was a lot of Tiger sadness over the weekend and then into Monday of just like, oh my gosh, I'm so upset. I can't believe it. We lost. We were up 2-1. We were 1 win away from an ALCS berth. We would have had, more playoff games in Detroit. We blew the second playoff game at home. We could have done it. We should have done it. Let's all relax. This season was a success. There's no other way of putting it. Now, there's some kind of doomer-ish like Tiger fans that just love being angry. And look, I don't love being angry, and I don't get mad at people when they are angry at their team for not winning. But I can't be angry about this because I'm a results guy. If you get to the playoffs, I don't care how you do it. I don't care. You can go out and spend $1 gazillion. You take the team to the playoffs. You can go out and spend a pittance and develop guys and have random guys show up and bat really well, and doesn't matter to me. You make the playoffs, that's success. Especially, you end a 10-year drought. Last time the Tigers had made the playoffs prior to this year, I was going into my freshman year of high school. Okay, so that's usually not a great stat to have. But not only do you break that, you break the Tigers' wins in the playoffs. So you get your first win since 2013, which is even earlier. And then, even more than that, you also get your first series win, beating the Astros on the road in a 3-game set. Didn't even need 3 games. You beat them in 2. And then you get your home playoff win. So you end that drought of no playoff wins at home since 2003. Like, you get the monkey off your back. And now it's time to be serious. Needs for this offseason. Very simple. Lock up your core guys. Tarek Skubal, Riley Green, frankly, even Parker Meadows. You don't necessarily need to pay Parker Meadows, at least not immediately, because I don't really know what his contract situation is or his arbitration deal. But Riley Green and Tarek Skubal, those are your 2 all-stars this past year. Those are your 2 probably best players overall. I think those guys should be getting extensions. I really do. Riley Green, really solid in the outfield, can play left, can play right, can play center, and a really solid above average hitter with a little bit of pop in his bat. This regular season, he had I believe, a career high in home runs. He had 24 home runs, 74 RBIs. He was an 827 OPS hitter. Very good hitter, very solid player, team guy, great on defense as well. And Tarik Skubal speaks for himself. He's the best pitcher in baseball. There's no world where you don't pay that guy whatever amount that he wants to get paid. He is a superstar. He was part of the reason that you even made the playoffs, because your pitching staff just went into beast mode, and he was the best part of that. So lock those guys up. Next thing you got to do, bring in some veteran bats. And I said this last year, but they didn't listen to me. So hopefully now you made the playoffs. Now you listen to me. I hear a guy like Alex Bregman wants a job. I hear a guy like Christian Walker wants a job. Maybe, depending on how this postseason ends up going for the Mets, maybe you give Pete Alonso a call. I'm not saying any of these guys are realistic necessarily. I think an Alex Bregman is probably more realistic than the others. But, there are options. And you need to bring in some of these bats, because as much as I actually do kind of like Matt Vierling in this lineup, I think he's a solid baseball player and you can put him in a variety of places. He is not the solution. Okay. When he is your veteran presence, when he is your elder statesman, not going to do it for you. Frankly, even the same applies to Jake Rogers. Jake Rogers had a great postseason. No doubt about it. Jake Rogers is one of the best hitters on this lineup in the postseason. But he's not an elite catcher. He's very good defensively. Gold Glove nominee. So I have no qualms with keeping him on the team, because he's very, very good on the defensive side. He's not a good hitter. He's just not. He has a little bit of a pop, but he doesn't bring you over the edge from the offensive standpoint. So I don't really know what the catcher's market is. Maybe you look at some of these catchers. If none of them are really, eye-popping, then maybe you just hope for some development from Dylan Dingler, and go from there. You might just have a hole at your catcher spot, which not ideal, but there just might not be anybody realistically that's available. There's also Brent Rooker of, I guess, soon to be the Sacramento A's. I don't really know if they're going to officially change their name to that or what they're going to do. But Brent Rooker could certainly be a trade option. He can play a lot of positions. He's kind of basically just a DH, but I mean, I'd rather Brent Rooker in my lineup than Zach McKinstry. I'll just say that. Like, Brent Rooker does a whole lot more offensively than Zach McKinstry does on a consistent basis. So basically, I don't want to necessarily have to leave things up to the Zach McKinstrys, to the Matt Vierlings, even, and I know this might be controversial, even the Andy Ibanez's of the world. I like Andy Ibanez. He's a lefty killer. He's fun, but he's just not consistent enough of a guy. He's a good platoon guy. He's a good guy to have in your depth, but he's not a guy you want to start a game with. And he's not a guy that can reliably start games with you and be a part of the lineup the whole way through, right? But a guy like Brent Rooker, a guy like Christian Walker, a guy like Pete Alonso, those guys, they definitely can stay in a lineup the whole time. They can hit righties, they can hit everybody. All right. You know what's more valuable than a guy who can only hit lefties? A guy who can hit both lefties and righties. Simple as. Now, the other point I had to make here as well is to continue to develop your guys. Look, I alluded to it. Trey Sweeney, Dylan Dingler, Chase Young, they still need some work, right? Dylan Dingler didn't play a single postseason game. He just wasn't putting up the numbers. Chase Young played a few, and it was not good. Trey Sweeney, similar deal. Pretty good on defense, and maybe if you extrapolate some of the numbers he put together in the regular season, it might turn out that he's a pretty solid player overall, but offensively, the bat is just not there. Now, there were some concerning comments said by one Scott Harris, president of baseball operations, where he alluded to Javi Baez having a role. Now, I am a man of action. I don't care what you could say, bibbity boppity boo. It doesn't matter to me. What does the team actually look like? How does the team actually perform? It does not matter to me what you say. It does not matter to me, how you said it. I can be bothered by it, but ultimately, actions speak far louder than words, especially in sports. So, if his comments are legit, I simply do not understand why Javi Baez needs to be on this team. The team got better once he died, basically. Once he was done for the season, the team instantly got better. Now, you might say, well, it wasn't just because of him. The pitching was really good, and it wasn't like the offense was started late, but blah, 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 blah. All right. You bring up Trey Sweeney, you instantly have an upgrade at the position. Because even for as not great as Trey Sweeney was, he was better than Javi Baez. Because Javi Baez was the single worst shortstop in baseball. Like that played out. Like the whole, like, you could replace him with anybody and you would be better off at the position and on all facets, right? That played out in real time. When Javi Baez goes down, you bring in a nobody like Trey Sweeney and he goes off for you. Or I say goes off for you, as in he plays slightly above average in some games and has a little bit of pop potentially. Like, if you can develop Trey Sweeney and he can be your everyday shortstop, then great, you're ahead of schedule. You don't have to worry about paying a guy. You don't got to worry about like Javi Baez will just not have a job because he's not going to be able to outcompete Trey Sweeney. Right? Like if Trey Sweeney is an above average shortstop, he's just going to beat Javi Baez every single time. It's not going to, like, if he can play defense, if he can hit, well, Javi Baez, you have no purpose on this team. So hopefully that is what Scott Harris ends up doing. As far as arms as well, obviously you're always going to need pitching. Maybe you give Jack Flaherty a call. I'm sure he would love to go back to Detroit. We'll see what ends up happening with him in LA. Because if he wins in LA, it's a very good shot that he just re-signs with them, sticks around there, and I totally would get that as well. But you find some pitchers. Hopefully, you make up for the awful Kenta Maeda signing. But overall, Scott Harris done a pretty good job of finding good pitchers. He brought back Andrew Chafin, brought in Michael Lorenzen. He had an all-star year. Jack Flaherty, of course, he speaks for himself, had a really great year, a really great half a year or so with Detroit, revived his career. And I'm sure we'll probably find another one of those guys because Chris Fetter is just a wizard, and he just makes every single pitcher better that comes here. So with that, though, I will end this Tiger talk for at least for now. I'm sure we'll bring back some more Tiger talk as the offseason fully happens. But look, it takes a man to admit when he's wrong. I was wrong about this Tiger team. I went into this season, I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. Thought maybe they could be above 500, but I didn't think they did enough to help boost the offense. And while I was correct, they did not do enough to help boost the offense because the offense still sucked. I underestimated just how good this pitching staff could be. I underestimated just how good Tarek Skubal could be. And I underestimated A.J. Hinch. He has really won his way back into Detroit faithful. He has won his reputation back. He has shown to be one of the top managers in baseball, one of the best baseball minds. And so I hope that he sticks around and, finally we can get this team going. Because I think fans, now the expectations start. I think fans are hungry. We saw how great those crowds were on Comerica Park in those nights. And when they got that win, that first win, the city was electric. Everything was on en fuego in Detroit for baseball. And I would love to see that place packed every weekend over this next summer. But you're going to need to make some investments. You're going to need to fix this team. You're going to need to fill the holes, bring up some guys, bring some swagger to the city and to the team that gives them more of an identity, that they're not just sort of known as the nobodies, basically. Like, you can do that. It's a fun gimmick, but maybe even have a little fun. Bring a star. And I say a star, like Alex Bregman is, Derek Jeter. Bring a name. Bring somebody to help get people to the ballpark. Bring as they say a ticket guy. Bring a guy who you have on the picture of the ticket. I know they have like digital tickets now, so they don't really do this anymore. But bring a ticket guy. Bring a Jersey guy. A guy, and I don't mean a guy from Jersey. I mean a guy who people are going to buy that jersey. And overall, just bring good players. Ultimately, that's the main thing that matters. But you bring a good player, you bring a Jersey guy. Simple as. So, great year though for Detroit. Great year for the Tigers, and I'm hoping that they can bounce off of this. They can use this as the jumping off point to far greater successes, i.e., World Series successes in the future. Now, continuing on the postseason, unfortunately, Padres They get eliminated by the Dodgers. They did the same thing, up 2-1, dropped both those final games. Unfortunately, the magic could not last for both mine and Seth's baseball teams. I guess I'm glad we both lost in the same round. I guess. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, but yeah, I do think the Padres have a nice future ahead of them. That this was a good year for them, a good bounce back year to get back into the playoffs. But they ran into a freight train with the LA Dodgers. Now, speaking of the LA Dodgers, their series just got tied up yesterday with a win for the Mets, blowout win, by the way. Excuse me, blowout win for the Mets. So the Dodgers blow them out, then the Mets blow them out. So that series is all tied up. We could see a long series between the Mets and the Dodgers. The Mets, kind of the magical team in the NL. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if they do shock the world and continuing to have success. This feels a lot like, I wasn't alive, but this feels a lot like the Miracle Mets, like just a team that nobody really saw coming, and they're just beating everybody. Now, it's still very early. It's only a 1-1 series, but hey, what's the old saying? The series doesn't start until a road team wins. Well, the road team has won. Now, I want to talk about the team that the Mets knocked off for just a moment. The Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia, but it's not good. So since losing the World Series to the Astros a few seasons ago, the Phillies have lost in the NLCS. They did that to the Arizona Diamondbacks last year. Then this year, they lose in the divisional to a division rival, no less, the New York Mets. So next year, wild card loss is my question is the window really starting to close for Philly? Because they went out as a team. They did the Dave Dombrowski thing. They got Bryce Harper. They got Kyle Schwarber. They got Nick Castellanos. They got Trey Turner. They got the superstars. They got all the talent, all the superstar talent in the world. Zach Wheeler at the mound. They got everything. And yet, when the lights are brightest, when things are tight, and you need those grindy players, those lower, kind of middling guys, those glue guys, vanish like a magician's wand. They disappear. I lived this as a young lad. This was the Tigers of the 2010s. This is the same playbook that Dave Dombrowski has been doing since at least he took the Tigers job. Now, what people will say is, well, he won a World Series in Boston. Now, hold on a second, all right? He did win a World Series. That's true. But it was the same sort of thing, right? Like, he had an allure of superstar talent. It wasn't like he developed a whole lot of stars in Boston because he really hasn't drafted a superstar developmental guy. He has done the thing that he did in Detroit, which is sell off assets for big name players that are established big leaguers. He's great at scouting for established big league guys, but he really hasn't had a great a home run out of the park draft pick since like Miguel Cabrera. And that's not me being hyperbolic. Like who his best Tiger prospect and hitter development. And I'm speaking specifically of hitters, obviously Justin Verlander with the Tigers, but specifically with hitters, Curtis Granderson. Like that's not a great resume. And I think Philly's starting to realize it. And you know what's going to happen, because it happened with Boston and it happened with Detroit. It's going to happen with Philly. The moment this guy leaves, and that could mean either he retires or he gets fired, this team is going to fall apart because it's all smoke and mirrors. It's everything is sort of hanging on a thread. And that thread is, these are a bunch of superstars that are here for me and that are here because I gave them all the money, or I went out and I sold off all the assets. I sold the farm. We're going all in all the time. And if you don't win, you're in for the long haul. And I think Philly's going to be in for the long haul if this doesn't work. The window seems to continue to be closing for them faster and faster. And it didn't help that they had a very lackluster deadline. I think they made one trade. And it just does not appear to be going well for Philly in terms of their trajectory. But it's going great for me. I'm happy about it. Now, Moving into the American League, the Guardians now down 3-0 to the Yankees in Game 2. Yankees up 1-0 in the series. Although they do have the tying run at the plate in Jose Ramirez. Oh boy, we got something here. Garrett Cole, 1-1 pitch. Oh boy, moonshot. Oh, dies in right center field. Jose Ramirez, this postseason has been terrible. Hold on. Let me actually look up because he was not really all that good with Detroit or against Detroit. Let me see what his numbers are in the postseason. Jose Ramirez is batting below the Mendoza line in the postseason. 143 average, a 613 OPS. He's got just 1 home run, 3 RBIs. He has not been good. And I'm sure these are the numbers probably going into the day. I'm sure they're going to be even worse at the end of the day. He has not been good at all. And with that being said, the Yankees, they're dominant. They're dominating the Guardians right now. And look, the Mets, they did tie up that series. And I said that series could go long potentially. But look, we're set up with kind of the worst case scenario for me as far as fandom goes. I am doomed to either have a combination of Guardians versus LA or New York versus New York or LA. So either division rival who just beat you, Cleveland, or 2 New York teams, or a New York LA, or I guess you could have New York Cleveland. I guess my ideal would be New York Cleveland. I suppose as much as I would hate to do this, I'd probably root for Cleveland just because I don't know, they haven't won in a very, very long time. So just to see that drought end would be pretty cool. But it just feels like we're just doomed for a Yankees-Dodgers World Series. And look, I'll put this out for the record. I do think that there's like this sense among fans that it's like, oh my gosh, the big markets, New York, LA, this stinks. It's gonna be awful. Everybody's gonna bandwagon. The media is gonna slobber all over it. Look, all right. Let me just point this out. If you do get Dodgers-Yankees World Series, that will be the most viewed World Series in a very long time. That's just a fact. Whether or not you like it, whether or not you think it's good for the sport, whether or not you hate both of these teams, the fact is the 2 most popular teams in baseball are the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. It just is. I don't love it. I wish the most popular team was the Tigers. I wish this was the case. But the big market teams are the big money makers. They are the reason that the league is able to still stay afloat. Right? In a lot of ways. The league does not stay afloat because of the Cleveland Guardians. The league does not stay afloat because of the Colorado Rockies. It stays afloat because of the New York Yankees and the LA Dodgers. I don't like it. It's the reality, though. On that point, though, I do think it would be a really entertaining series. It's not like we're talking about, like, boring New York and boring LA. Like, Shohei Ohtani versus Aaron Judge in the World Series? You're telling me you wouldn't be, glued to the television to watch that? Because I sure as hell would. Like, that sounds like an incredibly entertaining series. Now, as much as I would love to see the Guardians and the Mets, because those are 2, I guess you still have the New York market, so the Mets are still a big market team, but they're second class to the Yankees and the Guardians. Both these teams who had not won in a very long time, although the Guardians, I think the longest championship drought certainly the longest championship drought in baseball for a team that has won it before. But like, I can't lie to you. There is still a little part of me that's like, but Yankees Dodgers would be really cool. Like, that would actually be kind of cool to watch Aaron Judge against Shohei Ohtani. Like, that would be pretty neat. And it would also be prime candidate to dunk on the LA Angels for letting Shohei Ohtani walk. I mean, if in the first year of Shohei Ohtani as a Dodger, where he doesn't even pitch, if in his first year the Dodgers win a World Series with him, Artie Moreno should sell the team immediately. He should be required by the league to sell the team because for years the Angels have wasted Shohei Ohtani. And if the Dodgers in just one singular year manage to not only get him to the World Series, but potentially win the World Series, that would be the nail in the coffin of the ownership of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, of Los Angeles. So Yeah. But postseason baseball, I think overall has delivered. Looking forward to the rest of this game. Certainly looking forward to this World Series. Again, Yankees Dodgers could actually be a really fun World Series. As much as I would have preferred maybe like a Padres Tigers. Obviously, I would have preferred Tigers in some facet. Padres Tigers, maybe Royals, Mets, or Royals Brewers. Or, as much as I might have wanted those more, in baseball, it's hard to fake it. And in a lot of ways, these big payrolls, they do result in winning. You pay big name players, you pay good players, tend to win a lot of baseball games. So, yeah. Fun stuff, though. Fun stuff. Really entertaining baseball going on right now. All right. This is a very long show. We had a lot to go over. We did. But it is that point in the show. We all know what part of it. We all do. We might not want to admit it because we're very modest, but forget it. Forget the bit. It's time for the picks. Play the music. Turn up just a little bit. Did I do it? We're just gonna hope that's okay. We're gonna hope that's okay. All right. So last week we had quite the barn burner. Me and Seth had matched up on every single matchup except Thursday Night Football, in which I picked the Seahawks like a dummy. Seth had a perfect week, 14 for 14. He's riding high. He is undefeated, never lost. To quote Lonzo, or not. Yeah, Lonzo. LeVar Ball, not Lonzo Ball. There's so many L names in that family. All right. Thursday Night Football. Broncos, Saints, yuck, gross. Seth taking the Saints. Look. For the sake of home dog, I'll take the Saints. There was a little bit of like something there with Spencer Rattler. They put up some points. And as much as there's this sense in the back of my head that, well, it's back-to-back game. Like, usually Bo Nix and Sean Payton and the Broncos, they get it right the week after a bad loss, but it's on the road. I don't see it going well. Give me the Saints, I guess. I feel dirty about this whole thing. Then we got another London game. The Patriots, technically at the Jaguars, but it's in London. Seth is taking the Jaguars. And yeah, I'll take the Jags. Look, this is basically the Jaguars' second home. So in their mind, this is where they play their best ball. It's not going to change much. But yeah, the Patriots are just not all that good. I think Drake May could actually have a good game here. But this seems like a must-win for the Jaguars. I think they're going to be dialed in. I think this is going to be a win for them. Then finally back to the States. Seahawks visiting the Falcons. The Battle of the Birds. That's what it's going to sound like in Atlanta. Seth is taking the Seahawks, the Birds of the Sea. I'm going to disagree. I'll take the Falcons. Look, I think Kirko and that offense, I think they're clicking. They're coming off a win against Carolina, which is basically a free slot. But hey, win's a win. Gets more chemistry, helps build it. The Seahawks just feel like they're in a downward spiral. Gino's hype has started to wore off. His allure is starting to wear off. It seems like he's come back to earth. So give me the Falcons to get the win over the Seabirds. Up next, Titans at the Bills. Seth is taking the Bills. Yeah, there's no world in my mind where the Titans win this game. Will Levis is trash, and even if he does not start this game and you start Mason Rudolph is also trash. So there's not going to be any world where the Titans win this game. Bills obviously add Amari Cooper. That's going to immensely help that offense. I don't see a world in which the Titans come and make this game any closer than 0-0. So yeah, give me the Bills at home, get the win. Bengals at the Brownies. Seth is taking the Bungles to win this game. Okay. I'm going to deviate because there is some voodoo with the Browns. They know how to beat Joe Burrow. That is the one thing that the Browns consistently have been able to do recently, and that is beat Joe Burrow. So I'm going to take the Brownies. I think it'll be an ugly game. It'll be like 16-3 final score, 16-12, something stupid. So yeah, give me the Browns. I don't know. Maybe Jameis Winston will play. Maybe Deshaun Watson's arm will fall off. We can all be free from this. Up next, Texans at the Packers. This should be a good one. Seth is taking the Pack to win this game. Yeah, I think this is another game the Packers are going to win. They're coming off of the home win against Arizona. I think that's a pretty solid win. As much as Arizona has been a bit inconsistent, I think that is a solid win. Jordan Love had his best game of the year, starting to really get reacclimated with everything. And yeah, I like the Texans. I like what they're doing, but I don't know that they're really getting the rhythm that they need to get. They had a win against the Patriots, which might have helped with chemistry, but I don't know. I'm a little disappointed in them, but I still like them as a team. It should be a good game, but I think the Packers will get the win because of home field. Give me the Pack. It's going to be colder. They don't play in the cold in Texas. Dolphins at the Colts. Seth is taking the Dolphins. I can't do this in good conscience. I'm taking the Colts. Joe Flacco is elite. At this point, it's not even a joke. He just is. I don't know how. I don't know why. The Dolphins are terrible. They're starting. I think they're gonna just basically call up. It's like the commercial. I think it was Tostitos commercial where all the players that are old, they come out of retirement. It's like Emmitt Smith and Randy Moss and oh my gosh, the guy who was the quarterback for the Dolphins, whose name escapes me. Wow, this is embarrassing. Oh my gosh, now I'm gonna look this up in the middle of the pick. Dolphins quarterback. Famous. Stalling. Dan Marino. I totally never forgot it, guys. Totally never forgot his name. Dan Marino. They're going to need Dan Marino because he's the only guy who can play quarterback at a competent level for them. Either way, Colts are going to win. Moving along. Lions at the Vikings. Seth is taking the Blue Kitties. And I am obviously taking the Blue Kitties. I will never bet against the Lions. I will never pick against the Lions. You're never going to make me do it. Unless Matt Patricia comes back, then I will do it in spite. Lions coming off a blowout win over the Cowboys on the road. Offensively, the Lions have all the stuff. This will be a really tough defense, though. Minnesota's coming off of their bye. You speaking for the Lions, lose Aidan Hutchinson. This could be a close one. It was close last year when there was probably more separation between these two teams. I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings pull off a win here, but I also wouldn't be shocked if the Lions sort of stump Sam Darnold and things don't go as well for him as they have been going the first few weeks. I think they get their first loss of the year, so give me the Lions. Eagles at the Giants. Ew, yuck, gross, disgusting. I'm sick to my stomach just thinking about it. Seth is picking the Eagles. I will also take the Eagles. No further comment at this time. Both these teams suck. I don't want to watch them play football, so see you later. Bye. Raiders at the Rams. Seth is taking the Rams of Los Angeles of St. Louis, and I am going to concur. The Raiders just traded away Devontae Adams, who was their best player on the team. Aiden O'Connell is your quarterback, and you are basically in a free fall. The Rams coming off of their bye. I think they're going to be raring and ready to go. I think Matthew Stafford is going to be able to put up numbers. Tutu Atwell is his best receiver. Cooper Kupp might be moving in the right direction, so they might even get him back soon, potentially for this game. And if they get him back, it's not going to be particularly close. This does not bode well for the Raiders of Las Vegas of Oakland. A lot of teams are relocated recently. At least in my lifetime. The Panthers visiting the Commanders. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty easy one. We're both taking the Commanders. I'm never picking the Panthers. It's just that simple. And I already talked about it. Jayden Daniels might be the best quarterback in the NFC. Enough said. I think he's going to absolutely go off. This is going to be an embarrassment of godly proportions for the Panthers. I think this could be a blowout. I think this game could be over by the end of the first quarter, in a way. Like this does not bode well. The way this offense looks for the Commanders, And the way the Panthers are, it just did not bode well. So give me the Panthers. Chiefs at the 49ers, little Super Bowl rematch. Seth taking the 49ers. I think he's voting on emotion and not on facts. I will take the Chiefs. Coming off of the bye. Now, granted, the 49ers on the long rest because of the Thursday Night Football win they had last week, and they look really good. However, you're obviously not going to have Christian McCaffrey. A team cannot run the ball. They will not be able to run the ball against this Chiefs defense. I think the Chiefs are going to come on defense, and they're going to shut it down. It's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be hyped up. It's going to be the game of the week. It's going to be super hyped. And it's going to be like a 23-16 or a 26-20 kind of game, and the Chiefs are going to pull away with the win because San Fran cannot have fun against Patrick Mahomes. So give me the Chiefs. Then we got Jets at the Steelers. Ew, gross, yuck, disgusting. Steelers is the pick for Seth, and you know what? I'll take it as well. The Jets offensively, yes, they get Devontae Adams, so their offense is improved, technically. But overall, they're just not a good team. And that's not to say the Steelers are a good team, but it's going to be in Pittsburgh. That's a very tough place to play. And defensively, I guess if I had to choose a defense that I would never want to pick against, I would rather not pick against the Steelers. I might seem stupid, but hey, I don't know. I don't like picking against the Steelers because they just make you look stupid because they just find ways to win games ugly. This could also be a game that's 14-0 at the end of the third quarter. It could be that kind of game. That's Sunday Night Football as well. So that's rough. Sorry, NBC. Then we got a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. I didn't think this was going to happen again, but we got Ravens at the Buccaneers. This could be a really good game. Seth is taking the Ravens, the Birds. Man, this is tough. This is really tough. I'm going to go with the Ravens as well, just to even it out. Lamar Jackson is very, very good, obviously. Coming off of a nice win over the Commanders. That's a tough team, obviously. Very, very, very good team. I don't think the Buccaneers are significantly worse. I think they actually could be potentially better. I don't know if Antoine Winfield is going to be back in safety for them. If he's not, it could be very ugly for the Buccaneers. I do think the Ravens, though, are overall the better team. It could be a close one, though. I wouldn't be shocked if the Buccaneers do end up getting the win, but I'll take the Ravens either way. And then our second Monday Night Football game, I believe this game is the ESPN Plus exclusive Monday night game. So we know nobody's going to be watching because it's the Chargers at the Cardinals. No wonder they're putting this game on ESPN Plus because they know there's not going to be a big enough fan base that'll be angry with this. Seth is obviously taking his Chargers. This is tough. I think I'm going to agree. Just because I think the Chargers are at least a somewhat competent team. And that's not to say that the Cardinals are not a competent team, but I do think the injury to Marvin Harrison Jr. Is going to harm that offense. Arizona really has not looked the same in a number of weeks. I think this could be kind of a middle-of-the-road game. Probably it could be a blowout potentially, but I would be shocked because I don't think either of these teams are particularly good. And given that they're similar strength, that's where maybe this could actually be a pretty entertaining game. But it's going to be on exclusively ESPN Plus, so 30 people are going to watch this game, and one of them is not going to be me. See how I tricked you there? Anyway, rounding it out here, Broncos, Saints. Seth and I are both taking the Saints. Patriots, Jaguars. We are both taking the Jaguars. Seahawks, Falcons. Seth is taking the Seahawks. I am taking the Falcons. Titans, Bills. We are both taking the Bills. Bengals, Browns. Seth is taking the Bengals. I am taking the Browns. Texans, Packers. We are both taking the Packers. Dolphins, Colts. Seth is taking the Dolphins. I am taking the Colts. Lions, Vikings. We are both taking the Lions. Eagles, Giants. We are both taking the Eagles. Raiders, Rams. We are both taking the Rams. Panthers, Commanders. We are both taking the Commanders. Chiefs, 49ers. Seth is taking the 49ers. I am taking the Chiefs. Jets, Steelers. We are both taking the Steelers. Ravens, Buccaneers. We are both taking the Ravens. And Chargers, Cardinals. We are both taking the Chargers. And those are your Week 7 picks. Oh boy, the bases are juiced. Bases are loaded here in the Guardians Yanks. Tying run is at first. Leading run at the plate. Brian Rocchio up against Garrett Cole. Oh my. 2 outs, 2 strikes. Oh boy. This is intense. This is what playoff baseball is all about. Let me turn the mute off. Let's see. Ooh, 1-2 is low. It's ball 2. Oh boy. These are the moments, Garrett Cole. These are the moments. These are the moments that Garrett Cole collapses. Or at least he did collapse a couple of years ago. I don't really remember if he collapsed last year. He probably did, though. 2-2. Oh, he got him looking. Oh, that ball dropped in. Rocchio didn't like it, but it was the right call. Oh, Garrett Cole gets out of it. Look at all those New Yorkers. They all look exactly the same. Wow. They look, it's like they copy and paste them. It's like those, there were those CGI people that that Fox did during the pandemic and lockdowns. Like that. But anyway, that's the show. Very long show. Jeez, almost 2 hours. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I guess look ahead, show notes. No Michigan State this Saturday. Like I said earlier, we'll be tailgating that game, so we won't be doing that. But this will be the last tailgate of the season. So from that point on, from after this game on, hopefully, barring something not coming up, I plan on doing the rest of the Michigan State year, which includes Michigan State, Michigan, which is great because that was one of the games that I definitely wanted to be able to broadcast live because I think it could be good for viewership. But this could be this. I just wanted to make note of that. Secondly, Lions Vikings Sunday. We'll be broadcasting that game. That game is at 1:00 Eastern, so we'll be live probably around 12:50 or so. So a 1:00 start. Hadn't had a 1:00 start in the Lions in a pretty long time. Last 1:00 start was the Buccaneers game. Not a fan of that. But I like the 1:00 starts. I'm a fan. So, all right. With that, though, that is where we're going to wrap up the show. I appreciate anybody for stopping by, listening in, hanging out, chatting. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe, hit the like button. Every week, Tuesday evening, we do the show. It's live. It's a heck of a good time. Clips will be uploaded tomorrow in case you missed any of the highlights. And with that, I hope you all have a fantastic night. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you later. Goodbye. See ya.